All right, so let's start the day with a statement. And the statement is, it's all getting better, believe it or not. Believe it or not, things are, and can we also say that you all in your movements and in the dynamics of the work that you have been doing over the past year or so, that you have created the possibilities of this dynamic occurring? Now, it is not completely smooth yet, because if you look at the dynamic, you're still in a transition from one age to another, from one paradigm of energy to another, so that the dynamics that are being offered to you right now are more of a, we want to say, an in-between dynamic. In other words, you don't want to just go from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius. Energetically, that is a huge shift. And so there is a transition time, and that is where you are right now. And so you can see that reflected. We can talk about these esoteric things in a way like this, but we're not going to really talk about them unless they're actually reflecting in your reality now. And that is what is going on. Now, we're certainly talking macrocosmically at this point, but we would also suggest to you that it is a microcosm as well. The dynamics that are occurring in your daily lives right now, the things that you are facing in your daily lives right now, are such that they are reflective of a more consensus energetic dynamic. Not to say that there are not personal things that are kind of moving you from here to there, but because that's part of the journey, that's soul's journey. You all chose to be here now to participate in this movement. And even those of you that are looking at your lives and looking at your lives negatively in such a way as to say, oh well, it's all of this tsuris, that's a Yiddish word for trouble. All of this trouble in your lives have tsuris, yes. All of this energy that has occurred in your lives have been created. You created in order to find yourself in the positions where you are right now. And believe it or not, even though some of you are feeling very much at sea in the moment, in fact, you are exactly where you are intended to be. You are considering those dynamics of a new reality, of a new life that really go beyond the boundaries and the limitations of a world built on competition and comparison. So now it's moving more into a dynamic of, as we have said, cooperation, connection, compassion. This is the new world. And so, even though the reflection is not one where there is that grace, that elegance yet. It takes a while to get to grace and elegance. For a few times you have to walk into the wall, trip over your own feet, basically learn the ropes, because you're learning a new paradigm. You're learning a new understanding. And, for you each in your individual movement, it is more of a dynamic of what pieces of your inner self are you going to actually have to acknowledge and accept. That dynamic of the truth of you that you keep secret only to yourself. Oh, we got Jeannie going. Right? But you have to think about that. These are, what is your truth? What is your truth? who really are you? And are you admitting your truth to yourself? That becomes the real question, doesn't it, dear ones? Because sometimes the truth of you is a piece of you, or pieces of you that you have been denying your whole life, at least since you were cognizant. Dynamics of energy that were infused in your consciousness when you were in formative forms in order to create the challenges that you are now, or that you have been facing. In the identification of those challenges, you either run away from them or you walk toward them. And we would suggest to you that just simply because you're doing this kind of work, you're walking toward them, so they don't have to chase you down like it works with others in your world. You know, others in your world don't have that awareness, don't have that consciousness, don't see the reflections, don't realize that soul is speaking to you 24 a day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in the reflections of your reality. Your soul is speaking to you now, because they now have a direct line. But in other times, unless you have opened up those channels, unless you have opened up those connections, the language happens in the reflections, the actual reflections of your reality. So we would remind you again that this is a dynamic of energy that you have chosen. This is a path that you have chosen. Is your path, and it's, if you look at the dynamic, none of you are in this place at the moment, is your path so uncomfortable that it is forcing you to change? Or are you faced with a choice? And we would say you're faced with a choice, because that's much more complex. That's a higher level of awareness. That is a higher dynamic of a higher movement. And that is a dynamic that leads to permanent changes. And that's also what you need to realize, that, you know, you tend to look at yourselves through the eyes of your past. You know, it's time to look at yourself through who you are now. Who you are now. Accept that who you are now is new. It is a new individual. It is a new level of consciousness. It is a new level of awareness. Now, you haven't lost any of the old you. You have just added that dynamic of experience. And hopefully, that experience will turn into wisdom.